Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. It is not a great day for progressives. Hell, it's not a great day for the country today. I don't know if people understand what's going on in this country right now. I don't know if the people who voted these people in understand exactly what is happening. I tell you something, folks. This is getting serious, and if we don't watch it, I don't even want to say watch it. If we don't go ahead and do something about it quickly, it's gonna be an interesting situation. First, let me tell you, when it comes to the Supreme Court, I made some mentions to this. I think it was on yesterday's show, that the country is reaching a point now where the country will be controlled by 5 men. You heard what I just said. This country will be controlled by 5 middle-aged men. I'll go into that in a little bit after. But before we get busy with the show, I just want to remind you guys that this is a progressive show that needs your support. It turns out right now that I didn't get all of my people in. In other words, I didn't get all of my shows in on the Facebook pages for some reason. I am not sure what's happening here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and requeue this baby so that we can go ahead and get it done the way it should be. So bear with me 1 second as soon as I make sure to requeue this thing, so that we can actually get it to the pages that it needs to get to. And I think we've done that now. Okay, so we've done that. Anyhow, look, folks, this is very serious, and I want folks to take it seriously. I don't think folks realize what is happening here, and I'll go into that later on in the show. But anyhow, I want to remind you guys that this is a progressive show. This is a progressive show that needs your support. And how do you provide support to this show? The way you provide support to this show is going there to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. Again, that is patreon.com/politics done right. Become a subscriber. Hey, it's just a cup of coffee or whatever it is that you want to do. A cup of coffee, a bit more, or whatever. We are here to be a part of the solution. That's what we do. Anyhow, the title of the show today is "The Plutocracy Through the Supreme Court Has All But Destroyed Labor Unions." No, that sounds like hyperbole. Hell, even the labor unions may consider that hyperbole. Oh, wait a minute. Daniel Ledo, welcome aboard. Michael Rednan, welcome aboard. Let's see if anybody else that I know is there. But anyhow, you know what Ledo said? When I said that the country is going to be controlled by 5 men, Daniel Ledo decided to say, laughing out loudly, "You really want to say 5 white men?" Well, actually, that is what's going to happen. Welcome aboard, Patricia Rodak Ponton. Listen, 5 white men are going to control the country. You're right, Daniel, but I just said 5 men because, I wasn't going to go there. But since you went there, that is exactly what's happening now. But what I'm going to do later on is explain how government works to a whole lot of folks who many don't quite understand what I mean by why 5 men going forward will be controlling our government. But anyhow, the subtitle of our show today, "The Constitution's Electoral College Caused a Virtual Coup with the Election of Donald Trump. The Supreme Court is systematically completing the removal of democracy in a move to a new slavery. And Mr. Ledoux, one of my favorite conservatives that visits my show every day, notice what I said. The Supreme Court is systematically completing the removal of democracy in a move to a new slavery. Don't forget, I know you. That new slavery will apply to you. You will be one of the new class of slaves in this country if we don't mitigate quite a bit. And the truth of the matter is there's not much mitigation. All of you guys know that I'm a positive thinker. Not only positive, but I'm always saying we can never give up. And I still stand by we can never give up. But I want to warn all our progressives out there. I want to warn all our activists out there. We are going to have some very low times before we get back to the high times. Folks, if you're just listening to the show, if you're just tuning in, we had some mistakes in the beginning of the show with regard to technicalities with the technology, so we didn't get to enough pages up front. So please go ahead and share this page if you are listening right now. Please go ahead and share this page on your Facebook wall. Share this page on your Tumblr, your Instagram, and all the other things that come with it, because that is the only way we're going to get penetration. And today's show is a very important show. Okay, starting with the show. Elections have consequences. An unelected or an uneducated or willfully ignorant electorate ultimately harms itself. The confluence of all of this is the current recipe that is baking in America, and the consequences are dire. The Supreme Court decision that restricts the labor union's ability to fund itself effectively is just one cog in a complex and sinister pact to institute a new form or a new kind of slavery. Make no mistake, slavery does not require whips and chains anymore. It just needs laws and compliant subjects. Daniel Ledoux? Compliant subjects. People who they can use as subjects to get their will. You know? Things that they use to make you feel like somehow you're a part of this system. You just know what's going on, brother. You're a part of it. And you think you're in. You're with the ins, right? You're that conservative person that, hey, man, I'm a part of it. Nope. You're a pawn. And eventually, by the time all the pawns realize that they're pawns, it just may be too late. Luckily, progressives are on the move. And luckily, progressive may still be able to weather the storm. I mean, we won't get single payer. Women are going to lose their rights to choice for a while. And, so there are a lot of things that are going to happen. We may actually get a migration back to the blue states, because what's going to happen is all the red states, when the law gets overturned, Roe versus Wade, all the red states are going to reinstitute the ban on abortion. The blue states will maintain that a woman has a right to control her body as she sees fit. Slavery will continue in the South, not only against women, but against many others. So, I can foresee a migration from the South into states controlled by progressives, because that is where, you guys love states' rights, man. State rights. That is where state rights are going to give the people the rights that they want. It'll make them more economically viable. And the decline that we've always seen in the red states, the lack of education, the lack of, I don't want to say intellect, because that comes with education, but all the negative things that you see that are predominantly found in red states will only get worse. And the thing about it is, you wonder when these people are going to realize it and say, we've had enough. We've had enough. Anyway, make no mistake, slavery does not require whips and chains. It just needs laws and compliant subjects. And guess what? We are almost there. Estamos ahí. Now, before we go into the blog of the week, the news feed as follows. Justice Anthony Kennedy announced on Wednesday that he would retire, setting the stage for a furious fight over the future direction of the Supreme Court. Justice Kennedy, 81, has long been the decisive vote in many close divided cases. His retirement gives President Trump the opportunity to fundamentally change the course of the Supreme Court. Justice Anthony M. Kennedy sent a letter to President Trump announcing his retirement from the Supreme Court. A Trump appointee would very likely create a solid 5-member conservative majority that could imperil abortion rights and expand gun rights. But it's worse. It means that even if we get a Democratic Congress and a Democratic president, 5 Supreme Court justices will rule the country. And let me explain. Let me see if should I explain that now, or should I read the blog of the week? What I think I'm going to do is go with the blog of the week. Michelle Pennell, welcome aboard. I think I'm going to read the blog of the week first. And then we're going to go into the technicalities of how the system works. And it's important that we do that. But let's go ahead and say this.
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, here's a weekly blog post. Title is Supreme Court's Virtual Labor Union Destruction Fulfills Powell Manifesto. This is important. Folks, if you're just joining us, I want to ask you to please go ahead and share this on your page, share this on your wall, share this on Twitter, Tumblr, and all the others. We kind of got a slow start with the pages that we shared to, which gave us a large tick down. But I'm positive that we can get that tick up pretty soon. Anyhow, the Supreme Court is now the enemy of the working class. The final path to indentured servitude of the American working class is upon us. And unless there is a revolution at the ballot box, the total collapse of the ability of workers to get a fair wage will be gone. No doubt about it. No doubt about that. We must give Mitch McConnell a medal. Mitch McConnell did something we thought no politician had the pelotas to do. How do you hold a Supreme Court justice from being sworn in for a year? How do you do that? How do you do that with a straight face and say you're not obstructing? How can you deny a president who deserved that particular judge the ability to not have it? And he did it. So, while we can blame Trump for a whole lot of stuff, Mitch McConnell, the majority leader of the Senate, the Republican majority leader of the Senate, is directly responsible for what's going to happen in this country going forward. And let me tell you guys something that's very interesting. There's an economic crash coming because of the destruction the Republican Party has done with the tax cut scam. Ultimately, that also is a thing by Mitch McConnell. Because when it was time to throw out all the inconsistencies in the election, he put the fear into Obama, the fear of calling it a rigged election, and he forced Obama indirectly to not act on something that ultimately would have helped likely President Trump not become president of the United States. But continuing, let's back up. We must give Mitch McConnell a medal. He single-handedly changed American history by stealing a President Obama's Supreme Court justices. He has managed to virtually destroy the labor union, codify hate and racism, and much more. Yahoo News reported the following. The Supreme Court ruled Wednesday that government workers cannot be forced to contribute to labor unions that represent them in collective bargaining, dealing a serious financial blow to democratic-leaning organized labor. Really now? Let's ask Republicans what other things they will allow us not to have to pay because we don't want to. Let's ask them that. Because what you're going to find is anytime corporations come out and say they're going to force some fee on all their customers, whether the customers want it or not, the government says, okay, that's cool. But for labor unions, hell no. Anyhow, the court conservative majority, re-empowered by Justice Neil Gorsuch, scrapped a 41-year-old decision that had allowed states to require that public employees pay some fees to unions that represent them, even if the workers choose not to join. Isn't the Republican Party the party that always talk about takers and makers and the people who take advantage? So therefore, if I have a union and I have 100 people in the company who join the union, 50 who don't join the union, 100 pay their dues, 50 don't pay any dues. Then they negotiate the salary for these guys. These guys get a huge raise. Not 100 gets a raise. 150 get the raise. Why should those who decided not to be in the union either get paid, or why should they get the benefit? It doesn't make any sense, right? But that's what your Supreme Court just did. Your Supreme Court just ensured that you got loafers. But anyhow, continuing. Union leaders said in reaction to the ruling that they expect to suffer some loss of revenue, and also predicted that the same anti-union forces that push to get rid of the so-called fair share that non-members had paid will try to persuade members to cut their ties. Of course they are going to do that. There are already plans, said Lily Eskelsen Garcia. I met her in Netroots. She's actually of Panamanian origin, and she runs the entire teachers union. She said they are going after our members. She's the head of the NEA, the National Education Association. Una Panameña. Anyhow, a recent study of Frank Manzo of the Illinois Economic Policy Institute and Robert Bruno of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign estimated that public sector unions could lose more than 700,000 members over time as a result of the ruling, and that unions also could suffer a loss of political influence that could depress wages as well. Really? I think the union is suffering a bout of wishful thinking concerning how many members you're likely to lose and the effect on them. When the Plutocracy starts its anti-union campaign, it will convince many more to buy a few burgers a month as opposed to giving their monies to some labor union. And you know, people are going to do that. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. People come and go. They don't think about tomorrow. They just think about their bellies today. They think about that extra $20, $30, $40, $50 in their paycheck. But you know what? Pay me now or pay me later. All of this is by design. The entire stuff here is by design. It has always been the goal of the Plutocracy to neuter unions or any threat to the supremacy of the corporation. I mean, that's all. That's the ultimate goal. And this is not me saying this as a left-wing progressive. I didn't say that. This was codified. The Powell Manifesto, written by then soon-to-be Nixon-appointed Supreme Court Justice Lewis Powell, can be considered one of the templates. Here's some of the things that they said in this document, and I want you to listen well, because remember, these are letters that were written to the Chamber of Commerce, and the language has to be precise, and the language has to not be inflaming, and the language has to pass some sort of muster so that it doesn't look like some sort of collusion. And here's what it said. This is what he wrote. But one should not postpone more direct political action while awaiting a gradual change in public opinion to be effected through education and information. Business must learn the lesson long ago learned by labor and other self-interest groups. This is the lesson that political power is necessary, that such power must be assiduously cultivated, and that when necessary, it must be used aggressively and with determination, without embarrassment and without the reluctance which has been so characteristic of American business. As well as unwelcome as it may be to the chamber, meaning the Chamber of Commerce, it should consider assuming a broader and more vigorous role in the political arena. That is close to the beginning of what he wrote. Now, what else did he say? Later on, he says, it is essential that spokesmen for the enterprise system, meaning a capitalist system, he's calling it an enterprise system. They want to kind of soft pedal it. At all levels and at every opportunity, be far more aggressive than in the past. There should be no hesitation to attack. Listen to this. There should be no hesitation to attack the Naders, the Marcuses, and others who openly seek destruction of the system. There should not be slightest hesitation to press vigorously in all political arenas for support of the enterprise system, nor should there be reluctance to penalize politically those who oppose it. Wow! And that is what it's always been about. That's why you got Gorsuch. That's why you got, Mitch McConnell doing what he's doing, something that has never been done before. Because the plutocracy told him to do it. And why did they tell him to do it? Because it is likely the country's change means that democracy can no longer be depended upon to screw those that are served. So therefore, we have to move from a democracy to something else. And we'll discuss that in a little bit. Anyhow, my gradual change in public opinion is what he said. Gradual change in public opinion. He meant this, or what he meant is the misinforming, lying, and coercing of Americans through every one of its institutions, be it the media, schools, churches, or other. More importantly, they created think tanks like the Heritage Foundation that codifies lies and fake facts. That is what they do. This was codified in the Powell Manifesto. They couldn't put it in, you need to create a think tank that's going to lie to Americans. They just needed to say it in a different way. They said, until, while awaiting the gradual change in public opinion. While awaiting the gradual change in public opinion. And what creates that gradual change but an externality called the conservative movement led by people, or led like institutions like the Cato Institute, the think tanks like the Heritage Foundation, etc. Folks, it is imperative that you understand that we continue to be played. We've always been played, but we're being played even more so. And all my conservative friends, I see Daniel Cesek and Mike Cesek and Daniel Ladeau, they're active in there, Pawns, my friends, is what is called when one is being used unwittingly. Okay? So try to figure that out and see how you play in that domain. Try to figure out if you're playing in that domain. Anyhow, continuing. We are at an impasse. All the progressive structures necessary to fight against an overexpanding plutocracy are in danger. It is imperative that we organize in new forms to challenge the anti-working class rulings and laws. Folks, the telephone number is... What's the telephone number? I had the wrong screen up. The telephone number is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. I made a big claim that I want to talk to you about. I told you that this country is about to be controlled by 5 men. According to Daniel Ladeau, this country is going to be controlled by 5 white men. I guess he kind of have a belief that the judge that Donald Trump is going to pick is going to be yet another white guy. I mean, Trump may surprise you and pick a Latina. You never know. After all, last night he seemed to have liked my friend Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It looks like he liked her. But anyhow, here's what I mean. The way it works in this country is Congress comes up with a law, and they work it out with the Senate, what that law is going to be, and both the Senate and Congress passes the law. The law or the bill. The bill then goes to the president. The president can sign the bill, or he can veto the bill. Now, if he decides to sign the bill, that bill immediately becomes law, the law of the land. However, if he vetoes the bill goes back to the House and the Senate, And if they get what's known as a veto-proof majority, which I believe is either 3/4 or I think it's 3/5 or something like that of the Senate, and I think of the Congress, they can actually override the president veto and get what they want. In other words, the president will still have to implement the law even though he didn't like it because Congress overrid him. That's how it normally works. But here is how a plutocracy who is scared of its people, who are taking rights away from its people, who is hiding some of the vital statistic of its people necessary to vote, and many other things, here's what they intend to do. Well, I've always said the Supreme Court, the country will be run by 5 men. And it goes as follows. Everything that I said occurs. Congress passes a bill. The bill goes to the president. Let's say the president signs it. What happens then? Somebody in the conservative movement doesn't like this bill. Let's say what we have is a Democratic president, a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate. So, of course, we're going to get relatively progressive policies, progressive bills. But conservatives don't want that at all. Whether they won an election or not, they don't want that. So how do we mitigate that? How does the plutocracy still get its will? All somebody has to do is say, I was affected by this law, and the way I was affected was unconstitutional, and I'm taking it to court. And it eventually reaches the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will immediately grant that conservative the right to be, or rather, would simply make that law unconstitutional. I mean, so let's give a real example now. Right now, all of us progressives, what we want is something that is very simple. Single-payer health care. Medicare for all. Now, there stands a good chance for us to get that stuff. I mean, the medical system is so bad off right now, we stand a very good chance of getting single-payer Medicare for all in some form. Because the system is so corrupt, it's broke, it is bankrupting people, so folks want solutions. And you know what? Single-payer healthcare is the solution. Medicare for all, having people buy into Medicare. Guess what? Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and go through the permutations now. The House passes a bill. The Senate passes a bill. The same bill. That bill goes to the Democratic Senate, or rather, Democratic President. The Democratic President signs the bill, and the bill is law. Then the Heritage Foundation goes ahead and find a stooge and say, hey, this bill is harming you. This is how this bill is harming you. And that harm is unconstitutional. So what do you think happens? It goes to court. First goes to the lower courts. That's its jurisdiction. That court is likely to rule against the conservatives because a lot of times the lower courts are more sensible. But eventually, just like it did with recently, eventually, what's going to happen? Eventually, that bill or that law is going to get to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court then is the absolute last resort. And that Supreme Court, arbitrary from anyone else, irrespective of what anybody has to say, they can choose to say this particular law is unconstitutional. Think about that, people. Same thing can occur with abortion. Same thing can occur with any law that governs the entire country. All that Supreme Court justice has to come back and do is say, sorry guys, that's unconstitutional. You got to get back to work, get back to drawing, get back to whatever it is that you do. That is power. That is a power that progressives gave up for those who stayed home because they couldn't stomach a bill. As if they really were smelling anything. They weren't. But they couldn't stomach the bill because they couldn't hurt their pride. How smart was that? And also, Think about the women who voted for Trump. Specifically, most of the white women voted for Trump. But here is one of the issues I wonder if they consider. Their daughters, their sisters, their aunts, some one of them may need an abortion at some point in time. And in their state, it just may be illegal. And they just may not have the money to go across the border to another state. So suddenly, what has afflicted many people of minimal means will start to affect people of better means. And believe it or not, that just may be when we start hearing something. That just may be when we start hearing from folks rebelling as far as what the system is doing to them. Let me see if I can get to my people now. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me. We're getting to you a little bit earlier than my long-winded self over the last several days. And I know you're happy, but, I'm happy too. One of the things is I went to work out today. First time in a long time. Weights. I do a lot of cycling, but that doesn't do anything for the upper body. And my gosh, I'm in trouble, people. I'm hurting. Okay, let's see. All right, as it comes to abortion rights, Jeffrey Toobin made the same prediction about an hour ago. Absolutely, it's gone. Hey, Trump supporters, when you go do your thing and somebody accidentally gets pregnant and it's really an economic issue and you rather not have, anyhow, you're going to have that economic issue. Okay. Oh, sure, the healthcare system is so broke because of government that we need all government healthcare. Totally makes sense. Oh, boy. How do I address that? Forget about government. Forget about private enterprise. Forget about all of that. Because it is evident, my friend, CSEC, who wrote that, knows absolutely nothing about how healthcare works, right? So we got, the theory that somehow government is responsible for the failure of healthcare is laughable. The only folks responsible for the failure of healthcare, the only ones that are responsible for the failure of healthcare, I can tell you straight up, is the private sector, period. The private sector. They're the ones that create drugs that we develop with our funds and sell it at higher fees. They're the ones that go ahead and give you unnecessary surgeries. They're the ones that do all these things, not the government. But again, the Powell Manifesto was designed to play with your mind. And they created institutions that were created plausible lies for somebody like you to believe, my dear friend Mike Cisse. So no, the government didn't do it. Private enterprise screwed up our healthcare. Look at the governments all over the world, how well healthcare is running. None of them have the problems we do. And you can't talk about scaling. Okay, Rodney, the remedy to a conservative majority on the Supreme Court is a constitutional amendment, starting with getting big money out of... Look, I've lobbied for amendments before. We have the 28th Amendment from Move to Amend. Okay, and that is to determine that corporations are not people and money is not speech. We have that amendment already written. We have that amendment supported by over 16 Congress people in Washington. So we already wrote the 28th Amendment. Move to Amend has. I was with Move to Amend for, 5 years or so on the board of directors. And I stepped down, but I'm still a loyalist to Move to Amend, and they're still trying to get that out. We're still trying to get that amendment passed. But hey, in these divided times, it's almost impossible to do so. Mike Cisse again. If a certain group of people are putting out false info, wouldn't eventually people figure that out and not listen to them? Or are you saying people are too stupid to figure it out? The political left has the news media by 90%, the universities, Hollywood, and even government. But that isn't enough to overcome the small organizations you name. Maybe it is the left that is lying And people learn over time to ignore the left instead. Wow. I don't know how to answer that. Because, believe it or not, you're partially right. You're partially right. You're wrong about us owning the media. I mean, you're completely wrong about that. You check out Chuck Todd and see who goes to his show, and you can see that there's a preponderance of Republicans. In the news media, the same applies. Preponderance of Republican are the people who are generally asked questions when in serious domains. So, no, you're wrong there. But I think it is fair to ask, for Americans to ask, what have you done for me lately? What have the Democrats or should we say, what have progressives done for me lately? I think that is that's a plausible, not only plausible, I think that is an important question for us to ask. And unfortunately, I have a tendency to believe that I have to be careful in the way I say this. I have a tendency to believe that parts of the Democratic establishment are complicit in these happenings because the responses that usually come out are too darn timid based on the assault on the American democracy, based on the assault on what it is that we're trying to do. And let me tell you something, CSAC, Rudnin, and all you others, okay, that are conservatives. Slavery is back. Okay? The only difference with this kind of slavery is it doesn't have chains. And it's not folks of my hue who makes up the majority of the slaves today. But the slaves are there. And they're there every day. They get up at 7 or whatever time they get up to go to work. It's a new kind of slavery. Okay, let's see. Michael Rudnin. What did I say? Okay, Michael Rudnin. Justice Clarence Thomas is white. That's news to me. I wondered how long would it take for that to come out. What have I always said, my dear friends, about color when we talk about race? Race is a social construct. So when you ask me if Clarence Thomas is white, the answer is yes. Okay? White not as a race. White not of anything of that nature. Clarence Thomas is a part of the white supremacy. And the white supremacy is not there for white people. The white supremacy is there to keep a few people on the top ahead. It's just a perfect delineation to have a whole bunch of people who are willing to fight for you just based on their hue. I mean, these are some complex issues that they've already figured out that we're trying to instruct folk about, but generally have a hard time. Anyhow, continuing. Let's see. Michael Rudnin, public opinion is shifted against moneyed class. True. So let's see if that's translated into a tax. Daniel Ledoux. Sure took the plutocracy a hell of a long time to dismantle unions. Why did they wait so long? What do you have against unions? Please tell me, what do you have against unions? I mean, the corporations have the Chamber of Commerce, who does the negotiating for them to get the better deal. One employee cannot negotiate for himself or herself. Put together, they can. That's the purpose of unions. Mike Cisak. Private business have to offer something of value that people will buy voluntarily. Why don't unions do the same thing instead of using government forces? Oh my God. You can't be serious. You simply cannot be serious. Private business have something to offer. Unions have something to offer as well. And we know what it is. The 8-hour day, unions. The 40-hour week, unions. Vacation pay, unions. Should we continue? Unions have been one of the most instrumental parts of the economy for the working class. And as the unions have been decimated, what do you think has happened to the middle class? What do you think has happened to the working class? They've determined that suddenly suddenly they have some extra. Folks, look, we have to get serious, okay? All right, let's continue with the questions. All right, let's see. Mike Cesek, did FDR oppose collective bargaining for government workers? Yes. Your point being? Because FDR opposed it and because FDR was a progressive, should I think that FDR was right on everything? Absolutely not. I will not come and say, oh, well, FDR said X, Y, Z, and therefore all progressives should think this way. FDR was a rich man as well. Don't forget that. Daniel Lado, Kennedy retiring will bury the public sector union's decision. Unfortunately, you're right. For now. Michelle Pinot, what's next? We have been bombarded day after day, head spinning. All right, you are the person I want to talk to, Michelle. Michelle, if you're still here, or I don't know if you're still watching the program or not. I hope you're still watching the program. If you're not, you can go to the podcast. Michelle, I don't want, if you're here, Michelle, write a little something in the room. If you are here again, here's the deal. We are here not to talk about all the bad things that are happening. We are here to encourage folk to make a difference. And that is not a cliche. When I say encourage folks to make a difference, let's be frank, first of all. We have lost that 5th seat. That seat is not going to a moderate any longer. A friend of mine sent me a picture of Chris Matthews, or a tweet, an Instagram of Chris Matthews saying that if Democrats allow this justice to be seated, they'll have hell to pay. How do you not allow that judge to be seated? I mean, there's no longer a cloture vote. There's no longer a filibuster that can stop it. So therefore, Republicans have all that they need to approve any particular person that they recommended for the job. So how do they stop it? They can't. However, they can't stop it, but they can mitigate it in the future. In other words, we have to, going forward, make sure that Congress, the House and the Senate in 2018 is taken over by progressives, and that the presidency is taken over by a Democrat as well. That is the way we do it. That is the absolute way we do it. Now, that still presents a problem, right? Because remember what I said. 5 men will run this country, because any law passed by this Congress and any law signed by the subsequent Democratic president can, in fact, be overturned by 5 guys. Okay? 5 guys. So what needs to occur going forward? We need to put the fear in the Supreme Court. 1, we can actually add more Supreme Court justices. We can stack the court. So I don't think I need to verify that, but I don't think the court is restricted to 9 Supreme Court justices. I'll research that. But I remember there was a plan once before to stack the courts with more than 4 people. Maybe somebody can fact check me, but I'm pretty sure we can actually put more people on the Supreme Court. But secondly, here's a kicker. We can start putting the fear into the Supreme Court by starting what's known as a constitutional convention. A constitutional convention is where you get together. States get together after a certain amount of states approve the constitutional convention bill. They go ahead and they say, we are going to have a constitutional convention and we rewrite the Constitution. And a lot of people fear rewriting the Constitution because what, suppose somebody stick in slavery or whatever. Well, it's not going to happen that way because, first of all, the country is in dire straits right now as it is, so people are going to want change. But secondly, it's not going to be just a few people there trying to change the Constitution. It will be a whole lot of us trying to change the Constitution. That is the remedy. The remedy is we have to win it all in November. And after winning it all in November, going forward, what we have to do is start the constitutional convention or if we can in Congress, the constitutional amendment process to depower the the judiciary. Because right now what's occurring in the judiciary is dangerous. It is extremely dangerous because we're arbitrarily going to get you know what. So folks, telephone number 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. I would love to hear from more of you than in the room, but let me continue with the room. Michelle Pinot from Canada. Oh, you know what good healthcare is, Michelle. Not like what we have here, which is a joke. Kennedy retiring will bury the public sector unions. You're correct. What's next? We head spinning. I know, Pinot. Okay, Daniel Ledo. I'm a pawn. So says the guy who repeats Mother Jones' talking points every day. You know what is so funny? I've quoted Mother Jones on my blogs probably 2 or 3 times, if that many. I don't read Mother Jones, and it's not that I don't think Mother Jones is an excellent publication. Is that a lot of the stuff I want to have my context to it, and a lot of times that coincides with what Mother Jones is doing. So no, I don't think so. But you are in fact a pawn. I tell you what, check out your personal economy. Check your personal economy and see how good it is under Donald Trump, and see how good it was under President Obama. Because you know what? Those numbers are out there now. Okay, let's see. Daniel Ledo, such drama queen. Slavery, really? Of course slavery is a real topic of this discussion. And why slavery? Because that's where we're heading to. Daniel, you're a slave right now. Think about it. Think about it. You're a slave right now. You're worth a lot more than you're being given. You're a slave. I mean, when more Americans start to feel the pain of what slavery feels like, and this is a benign slavery, right? No whips or chains, just the internals. It's a benign slavery. Benign slavery. That's where we're at. Okay, let's see. Such a drama queen. Oh, and now I'm a drama queen. Wow. Didn't realize that. Didn't even wear a dress. I guess the next show I need to put a dress on if I'm a drama queen. I think you meant drama king. Okay, Mike Cisak. Let's see what else is here. Ready for Saturday rally. My bullhorn arrived. I am so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, Michael Dean, for going to that rally. You know what? Wait, let me make sure it's you who's going to the rally. Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's you. I am so happy you're going to that rally. Here's the thing. We have to get engaged, I mean, when I'm done with this program today, I'll be off processing the video so that we can get several thousand more people to actually see it. Because as it turns out, you know how it goes on live programs. You get the people that are home. You get the people that have the wherewithal to be able to listen, etc. But the other folks, most of our other folks, we get on podcasts, and somebody will drop a note. Oh, I got you on iTunes, and I am here. I'm enjoying this, or I got you on some other platform, and they're enjoying it. That is what we do here. So, what I want to ask you guys is, if you have the wherewithal right now, continue to support progressive radio, support progressive rags. I tell you, I make sure to do my part. I go ahead and I support organizations like the dailycoast.com. I support Democratic Underground. Democratic Underground that I think democraticunderground.com. I also support what other programs do I support? Other than op-ed, I also support the party. I support coffeepartyusa.com. And many others. Small donations, small support, but when we have millions of people, it makes a difference. And that is what I'm trying to get folks to do. Make a difference. In my show, not my show, on my front page on Daily Coast on Sunday, I told folks something very special. I said, don't blame Trump. It isn't Russia. It isn't Hillary Clinton. It isn't any of that caused Trump to win. We did. And how did we do that? We did not do our part. We did not support those entities that were trying to make a difference as they should have been. We did not invest in the communities as we should have to get the message out. We did not listen to the polls when the polls were heading in the wrong direction, which meant we needed some corrective actions. There, we can go over and over and over again all the blunders for the 2018 election. All the blunders, not all that far removed from the blunders of the 2008 campaign when the protagonist was a presidential candidate. So we have to be very, very careful. So anyhow, so what I ask you to do is support us at patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That's patreon.com/politicsdoneright. We are here for you. We're here to provide you with bi-directional information. In other words, you can talk to us. We can talk to you. We can have that kind of a dialogue that is seldom seen on programs of this nature, specifically on the mainstream media. So please go ahead and visit us at patreon.com/politicsdoneright. patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Folks, we're getting close to the end of the program. The telephone number to call in is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Please go ahead and be a part. Call in, and if you have something to say, if you disagree with me on something, I'd love to hear it, not only in the chat room. I'd love to hear it so other people can also hear it who are in their cars, who are elsewhere, because, you know, you can listen to this stuff anywhere. Anywhere. Okay, let's see what else I have here. Let me go ahead and refresh so that I can get any new comments that may have come in. You know, that's what we want to do. Okay. Check in. Slow. But we're getting there. Okay. As it comes to Trump's victory. Oops, I missed that. All right. Major victory for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Oh, what is going on here? Okay. Yeah, there we go. The Supreme Court and its conservative both agreed. Oh, this stuff rearranged everything. I don't know why it did that. Let's see if it starts from the bottom. As it comes to Trump's victory, I blame the mainstream media acting like ratings whores, giving him $5 billion in free airtime. So it's now $5 billion. I remember when it was $2 billion. So it's $5 billion now. Sandra O'Connor, hello, my friend. Okay, let's see if I see any more new messages. Then I'll close out the show with a little soliloquy before I go. Okay, I don't think I see any new messages. Let me check. I don't think I see any new messages. Okay, Daniel. Okay, all right. We're going to get close to the end of the show, or we are at the end of the show. Folks, I want to remind you that, again, this is a call-in show, 646-716-5812. In the future, please consider giving us a call. Look, I thank you so kindly for listening to the show. This was a show that we just kind of threw together today because of the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court results. They're dire, but they're not something that should stop us from moving forward and doing what we have to do. Look, I'll be frank. Yes, we've been dealt a horrendously bad hand. There's no doubt about that. We have been dealt a horrendously bad hand. Not only that, this will not live with us for just a few months. And even if we were to win everything, meaning Congress in 2018 and the presidency in 2020, we will still have problems. Because at that point, until we remove one of the Supreme Court, or rather until one of the Supreme Court justices is replaced, meaning until a conservative Supreme Court justice is replaced with a progressive Supreme Court judge, they can nullify just about any bill sent to them. They can, after the president signs it, somebody just has to object to it, and they can nullify that bill and nullify a law. We have to understand how the system works, and when we understand how the system works, we can see how what the Trump administration, along with the stooges in the Senate, are doing. It's a clear and present danger. Look up the word clear and present danger. Folks, thank you so kindly having listened to the show for this hour. We'll be back tomorrow at KPFT 90.1 FM with a different topic. Please remember that this is your show. Not only is this your show, but you can change the direction of the show at any time. I want you to remember that. You can change the direction of the show at any time. So do so, if you will, at any time. Please consider subscribing to the show. It is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Again, that is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. And become a member. You will be helping the movement do what it needs to do to eventually correct this country. Sorry that I don't have the normal energy that I normally have, but as I said, I started a new workout, and in that new workout, I just realized upper body requires maintenance. Because if it doesn't keep its maintenance over 6 months, atrophy is a terrible thing. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And guess what, folks? I am out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.